This is the Samsung Galaxy M55 that retails for some 27,000 rupees. When Samsung launched this phone, looking at the specs, my initial impression was, okay, this looks like a decent phone for the price. A Snapdragon chipset, 4 years of updates, 45-watt charging, Samsung's AMOLED screen, nothing much to complain about, right? But after using this phone for around 10 days, well, I have mixed feelings. Let me explain why. Now, I like to think of myself as a positive person, so let me talk about the good things first and then later I will spill the tea. Okay, so when it comes to Samsung phones, the display is one aspect you can barely be disappointed with. Here too, you get a nice 6.7 inches AMOLED screen that is really rich in contrast, has pleasing color reproduction and is bright. I know it does not sport insanely high peak brightness levels, but in real life usage, I haven't faced any visibility issues on this phone. And I appreciate that the bezels here are actually thinner than what you get on the Galaxy A35 or even the A55 for that matter. You get a tiny punch hole notch that is not obtrusive at all, and overall this is a nice, pleasant display to interact with. So it's safe to say that the display here is as good as you get with the more expensive A35. You also get an in-display fingerprint sensor here, which is a first for Samsung's M series, by the way. This is a welcome step up, but unlocking the phone might feel a little slow sometimes, and I wish the placement of it was better too. It's just too down below for my liking. For some reason, you also don't get HDR video playback support in apps like Netflix on the M55, but I will not complain about it since the core quality of this display is top-notch. I wish I could say the same about the design here though. I mean, I like that the M55 is not as thick as other M series phones from the past, but if you look at other phones in the same price bracket, you will definitely notice how it's not the most good-looking phone out there. In fact, the most concerning thing for me here is the build quality. A couple of days ago, I accidentally dropped this phone and it suffered 2 major bumps right away. And the sad thing is, I did not even drop it from much high above either. Even on the display side, it has caught a lot more scratches than I thought it would, which might be because it does not feature any Gorilla Glass protection at all. There is Dragon Trail glass protection, which evidently is not very effective. And to top things off, there is no IP rating here as well. So if you decide to get this phone, first thing, get a solid cover and a screen protector too, because Samsung does not provide one out of the box. And guess what Samsung does not provide out of the box? A charger. Although this phone supports 45-watt charging support, you will have to buy a separate charger. I would suggest you get a 25-watt one because it will, number one, cost you much less, and number two, the charging speeds are not that significantly different either. But I will give it to Samsung for optimizing the battery very, very well on the M55. Even with a heavy usage pattern, I was able to get around 7 hours of screen on time from this phone, which is commendable. Alright, next, performance. And no hate for Exynos, but I am happy that Samsung chose to go with the Snapdragon 7 Gen 1 on this phone. It's not the most competitive in its price range, but it sure performs slightly better than the Exynos 1380 that we get on the more expensive Galaxy A35. And that is quite noticeable from the gaming results itself. You can see how the M55 can run games like PUBG smoothly at 60 FPS, while the gameplay is a bit stuttery at the same settings on the A35. It's the same with games like Genshin Impact, where you can expect slightly smoother gameplay. Even running everyday chores is no problem here at all, and the phone is fast enough while opening apps, multitasking, and the like. But I do have to tell you that there were 1 or 2 instances when I randomly faced lags and stutters in the UI. However, I found the thermal capacity of this phone to not be very good, at least not as good as the A35. A part of the reason is the fact that this phone does not feature a vapor chamber cooling system as the A35 does. So when playing PUBG or Genshin Impact for around 30 minutes or so, the phone would heat up to 40 degrees or even more. As for the software, the M55 ships with Android 14 out of the box along with Samsung's latest software version, and like with most Samsung mid-range phones, you also get 4 years of OS and 5 years of security updates here. So on the software side, this phone is pretty much sorted. And even though this is an M series phone, Samsung has not missed out on things like Knox security, so that is great as well. Okay, before moving on to the cameras, let's get done with some other aspects that I'm slightly disappointed with. First is the speakers and second is the haptics, both of which are quite average on this phone. The M55 does feature stereo speakers, but they're quite bland and unimpactful. The vibration feedback here is nothing to write home about either. It's slightly buzzy for my liking. In comparison, something like the Note CE4 or the Samsung Galaxy A35 will give you a better experience in both the aspects. Okay, finally, let's talk about the cameras. And here on the M55, you get a triple camera setup, which is a 50 megapixel primary sensor, an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle sensor, and a 2 megapixel macro lens. On the front, you have a 50 megapixel sensor for selfies. Now, you might think it's the same camera setup as the Galaxy A35, so the camera performance should also be similar, right? Wrong. It's quite the opposite actually. While the A35 favors the classic Samsung color processing with a bit of a pop in blues and greens, the M55 goes in with a ton of contrast and extremely laid-back color processing. And I actually prefer the eye-catching colors of the A35 to be honest. A35 also does a great job in highlight management, which the M55 misses out on a little bit. Both phones feature pretty average ultra-wide-angle sensors, so I don't think it's necessary to label one as better than the other. During nighttime, once again, the A35 pulls off a punchy output with good exposure management, while the M55 again has toned-down colors with subpar highlight management. Both phones process human subjects very differently too. The M55 brightens and smoothens the subject's face a lot, while the A35 tries to keep things a tad bit natural. Honestly, I would go for the A35's portraits any day of the week. Selfies from the M55 are good though. They are sharp and detailed, although a little brightened, not bad overall. Even quality-wise, the selfie videos are good, but the catch here is that it lacks stabilization in the 4K option. Turning over to the rear cameras, EIS works pretty fine to stabilize the 4K 30fps videos here, but you will still notice frame jitters every now and then. Okay, so is the Galaxy M55 a good option for the price? Honestly, if I was looking for a Samsung option at that very price range, I would rather go with the A35 instead, and that too for a lot many reasons. First, you get a premium design, better IP67 ingress protection, better display protection, and better cameras on the A35. I know some of you might think that the Snapdragon 7 Gen 1 will save this phone, but no. Even the Exynos 1380 can pull off almost similar gaming results with much less heating. Then again, at an even cheaper price, I honestly think the best all-rounder offering right now is the OnePlus Nord CE4. But if you absolutely need the Samsung experience, my suggestion to you is better add some money and get the Galaxy A35 instead. That is a better investment. So everybody, that was all for my full review of the Samsung Galaxy M55. Let me know in the comments below if you would like to see a comparison of it with the Galaxy A35. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends as well. Saying this, I'm Pratima. Thank you so much for watching.